In this video, we'll create an alternative force choice task where the participant has to choose between two randomly selected images. Let's start by creating a new experiment and a new task to display instructions and get the participant's ID. We'll navigate to the Screen tab of our new task and add a new text object and click Edit. In Edit mode, we can see how our screen will appear to the participant in the game window. We can also make changes to our text object that can be viewed in real time. Let's modify our text with our instructions. We can use special tags to modify the appearance of some words. We'll adjust the font size, increase the text box width, and reposition it to the top of the screen. Next, let's create an input field to collect the participant's ID. We see that input fields require a global property to store and record the data that's entered. Let's exit Edit mode and create a new property named Participant ID. We'll set the property type to string so that we can capture letters and numbers. Navigating back to our task, we can add our new property to our input field. Let's enter Edit mode again. We'll change the placeholder text in our input field and adjust its position. Next, let's add a button that the participant can click to start the experiment. We can click Refresh to see our new button. Let's update the button text and adjust its position. We'll also define what happens when the button is clicked. We want it to end the task. To ensure that the participant can't press the button without entering their ID, we'll set the starting state of the button to inactive and invisible. Since our participant ID property is recording the input field data, we can set the button active and visible only when the input field isn't blank. Let's exit Edit mode and press Run to test our task. We see that when we enter something in our input field, our button appears. In the data viewer, we see that our participant ID property has been automatically added, and each time its value changes, a new row is added. This data will be automatically saved to a CSV file. When we press our button, the task ends. Let's exit Run mode and navigate to the experiment window. We can use the Filter button to easily see the elements we've created, and clicking on an element will open its editor. Now let's make a new task that will display two images to the participant and ask them to choose one. First, we need to import the images we want to use. We'll navigate to the project window and select Experimenter and Experiments. We see that a folder has been automatically created for our experiment, as well as a folder for adding our stimuli. You can import images by simply dragging them into this folder. In the Screen tab of our task, let's add two image objects. To set their image, we can simply drag one of the images we imported onto them. We'll enter Edit mode to adjust their position and size. Next, let's add two buttons, one to choose the left image and one to choose the right image. We can also add keyboard inputs that when clicked will be like pressing the button with the mouse. This is a great feature for reaction time experiments. We'll hit the refresh button and adjust the positions. We'll also adjust the button style options so that they turn green when selected. Since only one button can be selected at a time, this will indicate to the participant what their current selection is. Let's press Run to see this in action. I can select the buttons with the mouse or with the left and right arrow keys. But we need a way to capture the participant's choice in our data output. Let's create a new property called LeftSelected. We'll set its type to Boolean, aka true or false, and automatically reset it to false at the start of each task. We'll press Duplicate to create a new property with the same settings and call this one RightSelected. We can now go back to our task editor and add responses to our buttons so that when the participant clicks one, it will update these properties. When the left button is selected, we set LeftSelected equal to true and RightSelected equal to false. We can do the opposite on our right button. Now let's create a button that our participant can use to confirm their choice. We'll start the button inactive and invisible and use our left or right selected properties to make it active and visible only when the participant makes a choice. We'll also end the task when this button is pressed and allow the participant to use the space key instead of pressing the button. Let's run our task to test that everything is working. I can click the left arrow and see that our Confirm button appears. Let's quickly adjust it to appear between our other buttons. When I press it, our task ends. But we want to display more than one image pair, and we want to randomize the images in each pair. To do this, we'll first create a new property called Images and set its type to Image List. We'll drag the images we want to use into this list. Next, let's create a property called leftImage. We'll set its type to image. We'll hit duplicate and make another property called rightImage. We'll navigate back to our task and we'll change our images from value to property. This will set our images to the images of the property. Let's navigate to the Pre-Start Updates tab. Here we can do operations on our properties before the task starts. First, we'll select a random image from our list property. We'll set our leftImage property equal to this randomly selected image. We can repeat this process for the rightImage. Let's test this out by entering edit mode. We see that each time we press the reset button, a new set of images is displayed. Now let's create a property to track how many pairs the participant has completed. We'll set its type to integer. We can add a response to our button that adds one to this property when it's clicked. We can move this response to the top of the list by clicking and dragging it up. Let's add a new text object so that the participant can see how many they've completed. We'll have this text object reference our new property and add some prefix and suffix text. Remember that there are 10 images in our list, so there will be 5 pairs. Let's adjust our new text object in edit mode. We can also use this property to create an end contingency on our task. End contingencies are conditions that are checked when the task is ended. They can be used to define what happens next in the experiment. We want to repeat this task if the participant hasn't completed 5 choices. Now when we run the task, it repeats with the new set of images when we press the confirm button, and we can see how many choices we've completed. In the data viewer, we see that all of our new properties have been automatically added to our data output. Once we complete 5 choices, the task ends. Let's quickly create one final task that will let the participant know the experiment is over. To change things up, we'll set the background color of the screen to black and add a text object and set the font color to white. We'll use our text object to let the participant know they've completed the experiment. Now we can create a new trial and sequence our 3 tasks. When we run the trial, we see that each task runs just like it did when we were testing them individually. Thanks for watching this demo video. If you're interested in using Experimenter for your own research, send us an email at info@silicolabs.ca.